All right, YouTube. This is Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit. It's Thursday the 18th, 9 a.m. I want to talk to you about a recent story, and it's going to give you a brief history of a situation we have right here in Detroit. Bear with me and listen to the end at this story. When I was a young kid, thousands of Arab immigrants migrated to Detroit. They were able to get business loans and they purchased so much property that they eventually owned 95% of all the stores in Detroit. Now, in these stores, they were mainly liquor stores. The liquor stores they filled with, cheap alcohol, all kind of paraphernalias. I'm talking about all kind of paraphernalia, and they sold it to the black people in Detroit because that's where they put up their stores. That's where they were directed to put up their stores. When they opened these stores, their hostility and disrespect for the black people of Detroit was obvious. So many young black Americans in Detroit lost their lives in these stores for petty theft, stealing $2 worth of merchandise out of the store. All kind of incidents happened because the Arab immigrants had no love or respect for black Americans. They had already came to this country and to our communities with a predisposed disposition towards the black Americans. If you from Detroit, you know I'm not lying. I think every person that grew up in Detroit knows what I'm talking about. So these Arabs, they sold the alcohol and the paraphernalia for decades in the city of Detroit. They accumulated so much wealth off the backs of black people in America and Detroit that they were able to build their own city right next door to Detroit, adjacent to Detroit, across the street from Detroit. They began having their own police protect that neighborhood while they came in our neighborhood and ran their liquor stores. They demonstrated a whole lot of hostility toward the black Americans, and they had the protection of the police and the government that had funded them and helped them get these liquor stores, which of course decimated our community with alcoholism and all kind of abuses from the paraphernalia. And they clearly had a disdain for black Americans in Detroit. Now you may ask, where am I going with this? Because now they have become so powerful in the city of Detroit that they have a congresswoman, Rashida Tlaib. Now she's supposed to represent this whole area, but she represents her Arab brethren, her Arab community. Now, people get in these comments when we talk about how Biden got in. They was like, "Oh, you black people in Detroit, y'all voted for Biden, and that's how Trump lost." I don't believe that because I remember during the Trump reign, we all in Detroit had a better standard of living. You seen the young people buying cars, you seen people being able to pay their bills. We were prosperous under Trump. So when the next election came, somehow Trump lost Detroit. So people get in the comments say, "Oh, you black people, y'all voted for him," and vote. No, it was our neighbors right across the street over in Dearborn under Rashida Tlaib that helped him and helped Biden and his administration get away with whatever they did in our district, and Trump lost. This is what happened. So what am I talking about today? Now, I told you Dearborn is literally right across the street from Detroit. It is an Arab community. Now, don't look at my video and say I'm xenophobic. I'm telling you what happened. I'm telling you what every Black American in Detroit knows this to be true. The Arabs in that side of town have always worked against the interests of the Black Americans. We were their cash cow. They didn't have any respect for us because they were told to set up shop in our communities and sell us these uh, items. They're cheap merchandise. And that's how they became wealthy. And that's how they became powerful. But what am I talking about today? I'm talking about the people across the street in Dearborn. They're shouting now from Dearborn, unalive Americans, unalive Americans. And us Black Americans across the street who they've never respected, are they targets? Always have been their targets. So I'm going to show you some clips, and I hope you can follow what I'm saying because this is real life. This is a real story. This is really what's going on in Detroit. So if you live in another city or another state, understand this. Our neighbors that they empowered through immigration, benefits, and resources are shouting they don't want Americans alive anymore. And the Congresswoman, Rashida Tlaib, who represents them and their interests over ours, I want you to hear what she has to say about it. Think about that. Foreigners come to your community, drain the money out of your community, build another community right next door, keep their businesses running, protect their community while they help destroy ours. And now they're so disgruntled, they don't want us alive anymore. Think about that. This is the Democratic administration at their worst. So I'm going to show you these clips and I'm going to give some more feedback. This is for fair usage under 1976 Copyright Act for commentary and educational purposes. Check this out.
Malcolm X said, and I quote, "We live in one of the..."
Now, I'm going to stop there because I got a problem with this. See, I showed you the other day how the African immigrants are now trying to be Black. Now, this Arab who's over there saying and chanting unalive America, he's quoting Malcolm X. He's quoting Detroit Red, one of the icons in Black American history. This Arab is quoting him while they're over there shouting unalive Americans. And these Arabs have never had any respect for Black Americans. But now they can use our icons like Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and Malcolm X to support an agenda that has nothing to do with Black Americans. He's quoting Malcolm X in his disdain for this country and their policies in the Middle East. This is bad because nobody is really checking this. Why is he quoting Malcolm X? Why don't he quote some mullah or ayatollah over there where he's from? He's quoting Malcolm X because he's trying to tether their movement and their agenda to Black Americans, to Detroiters. Clearly, he's quoting Detroit Red, Malcolm X. But they don't never stand with us. They consistently vote against our interests, and they consistently drain our community of resources by selling us liquor. Okay, we don't have to buy it, of course, but it's on every corner, and they own it and they run it. But they claim to be Muslim, and alcohol and pork is forbidden in their culture, so they market it to us. Think about this. Let me finish showing you.
In his countries that has ever existed on this earth. It's not Genocide Joe that has to go. It's the entire system that has to go. Any system that would allow such atrocities and such devilry to happen and would support it, such a system does not deserve to exist on God's earth.
Isn't that ironic?
Congresswoman Tlaib.
Isn't that ironic? The same system that allowed them to come to this country gave them loans and grants to put liquor stores in Detroit to do things to Black Detroiters and not be prosecuted. They say the system shouldn't exist. This is the Democrats. Wrap your mind around that. They were allowed to come to this country, giving grants and funding to open all those liquor stores and sell all that paraphernalia in our city, to the point to where they became so wealthy, they were able to build a suburb right next to us and be close to their businesses. Then they come out and quote Malcolm X, who they never respected. When Malcolm X first went to Mecca, they put him in jail and wouldn't even allow him to go into the city. This is what they think of Black Americans. But if they can use us, they will quote us as if we stand in solidarity with them. And people around the country, they look and say, "Oh, Detroit, how y'all let Biden win?" You really think that the average Black working American wanted Biden in? Think about that. It was Rashida Tlaib, her wealthy constituents from her homeland that are now shouting that this country shouldn't exist. They gave them more power than they gave the average Detroiter. And now look what they're saying right next to us. So they're saying we shouldn't exist. Isn't that something? Listen to Rashida Tlaib. Listen how she responds, though.
Congresswoman Tlaib. Fox News. I don't talk to Fox News. At a rally in your district, people were chanting "Death to America." Do you condemn? I do not talk to Fox News. But do you condemn chants of "Death to America"? I don't talk to people that use racist tropes. Why can't you just say whether or not you condemn people chanting "Death to America"? Why are you afraid to talk to Fox? Fox News is not listen, using racist tropes towards my community is what Fox News is about, and I don't talk to Fox News. Is "Death to America" racist? Fox News.
I want you to hear how Rashida Tlaib says her community. She totally is committed to the Arab community in Dearborn at the detriment of all Detroiters and Black Americans. This is a whole nother level of betrayal. And I want you guys from other cities and states who wonder what happened here in Detroit. I'm showing you what happened in Detroit. I'm showing you how it happened. Think about this Arab woman, Rashida Tlaib, who was put in Congress over this district and in this region, who represents a rich Arab community with ties to the Middle East across the street from us that now don't want us to exist. It's something wrong with this picture. Will you agree? Will you agree? Let's listen to her some more.
Chanting death to America racist? Talking about your guys' racist tropes. You know, you guys know exactly what you do. I know you're Islamophobic, but you guys gotta go deal with it on your own self. You're not gonna use me.
Members of your community are chanting death to America. We would think you would have a response.
Now she says, you guys are Islamophobic. She's not dealing with the fact that this is her community saying these things at a time where this country is being overran with more immigrants sneaking through the border from the Middle East. They're setting Detroit up, allegedly, in my opinion. And I've been living in Detroit almost 60 years. And if a person is from Detroit, they know everything that I'm saying is true. Do you know how many Black Americans lost their lives going to these stores with these people who had no love or respect for us, and they were purely there to drain the money and send it to their homeland and build their own community? Now they have power, more political power than the average Black citizens. And this is what they're saying right across the street from us.
Right. Plus, you said when confronted after you should have been expelled from Congress when you said from the river to the sea, you said it didn't mean what we thought it meant. Then you have that same guy that's from your community saying that it's for the annihilation of Jews. So which is it, Congresswoman? And I just got to ask the people of Congress, you guys were so ready to get rid of Santos, but you can't get rid of a Congresswoman that has this type of stuff, espousing the same rhetoric that this guy espoused there in her community. I just think it's cowardice.
Well, this way, she was first, but she's not the last. She was the first one to speak out against Israel. Now most of the Democratic Party does. And keep in mind, in my view, she became a congresswoman to represent Palestinian cause. And that's all she really cares about. They didn't really want her to go visit Tel Aviv. They told.
I told you the same thing that he just said. But the only difference between me and him is I live it. I see it. Every day I go to a store. Every time I see something that happens to somebody at one of those stores, they empowered them over us. And now it's in their face and coming back to bite them. And they've made us a little bit less secure. They created a threat across the street from us. And this is real. This is politics. This is the Democrats' politics. Think about that. Could you imagine people coming to your community, draining the resources, then building up their community, and then getting power over you, then treating you like crap and taking over, and then at some point gets to say, you don't exist. You don't need to exist. See, I usually don't worry about what goes on in the Middle East because I live around Middle Eastern people and I know they don't give a damn about Black Americans. So I don't give their stories too much credence or publicity on this channel because I understand them. I have lived around them. I know their politics. And they're not the same as American politics, especially Detroit politics.
To go over to Gaza when she did decide to visit. And she has not condemned the comments. She could do it in a statement. You don't have to give it to Hillary Vaughn if you don't want, if you find Fox so offensive. Also, Governor Whitmer. Where's Governor Whitmer coming out saying, oh, yeah, this does not represent the people of Michigan? I got some emails yesterday saying, we don't agree with this. You know, don't worry about whether I vote for a Democrat or Republican. This is not representing Michigan. But in that area in Dearborn, the President of the United States should have condemned those statements. You might have the right to say it, but it doesn't mean I don't find it abhorrent in America to do that.
The president and the mayor of Dearborn said that this is unacceptable. So he has spoken out against these comments. It's just, this just feels like such a scary time when you think about Americans, people in a state like Michigan saying death to America. There was this 18-year-old in Idaho that was just arrested by the FBI because he pledged allegiance to ISIS. And he came up with this what literally looked like an actionable terror threat that where he was going to kill people at a church in his hometown.
No, I know. And it is scary to hear death to America, death to Israel. Brian was talking yesterday to Carrie Kupek Urban, who said that essentially that language is protected. It's protected speech. It is offensive. And here's the thing about Tlaib. Essentially, Tlaib has, remember when she was sworn in, as all members of Congress, you are sworn in to defend the United States of America. And if you cannot defend the United States of America, hey, death to America, are you for that? And she would not respond. It's just like, come on, that's a no-brainer. She could have said, look, I've already pledged to defend the United States, so it's the other guy's freedom of speech, but I don't agree with it.
She can't respond because she agrees. And the reason why I say that she agrees, because it's her community. She said some of the similar things, to the river to the sea. She tries to twist the words and act like she doesn't. Meanwhile, she's on the Financial Services Committee, which has oversight of Treasury when there is sanctions being brought on different countries. I don't think she should be on there. She definitely should not be oversight, getting information from the FBI. If she cannot be firm on her stances when it comes to defending and protecting this country, I don't understand why she's on these committees, let alone in Congress.
I'm going to stop it right there. And I hope you get the picture and how I was trying to put you in Detroit's shoes. They got Detroit on the front line. And most Detroiters don't even recognize what's going on. Most of the country don't. These people in her community have never aligned themselves with Black Detroiters. They have never embraced being a Detroiter. That's why they built their own little town, Dearborn. They built Dearborn up. And that's their base and headquarters. This is a dangerous politic going on in Michigan. Well, it's still early. Thursday morning is like 9:22. I ain't gonna hold you guys. Think about what I said. Look into the stories yourself. Verify if what I'm saying is true. Don't take my word for it. And, as always, keep your head on the swivel. Salute to all patriots. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace out of Detroit.